The price of justice. The rain hammered against the glass dome of the arbitration hall, each drop racing down like silver tears. Inside, the air crackled with tension. Riya Voss stood at attention in the center of the chamber, her judicial uniform pristine despite the storm raging in her heart. The three arbitrators sat like stone judges, their black robes making them appear more machine than human. The central arbitrator's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Officer Voss, you stand accused of interfering with lawful corporate proceedings. Imperial Salvage and Acquisitions had legal right to acquire the asset. Asset? Riya's voice trembled with controlled fury. His name is Drinker. He's a war veteran, not property to be sold. The reptilian arbitrator to the left adjusted his optical visor. Class 4 war creatures have no citizen status. Your emotional attachment clouds your judgment. Riya's fists clenched. They spoke of Drinker as if he were scrap metal, not a being who had bled for their galaxy. The old dragon had served in the War of Broken Suns, his scales bearing scars from battles that saved entire star systems. The law serves order, not sentiment, the central arbitrator declared. You are hereby stripped of rank and dismissed from service. The words hit like a physical blow. Years of dedication, of fighting for justice across the sectors, ended with bureaucratic cruelty. Two security officers approached as Riya slowly removed her badge, placing it on the podium with trembling hands. Outside, the storm matched her inner turmoil. Neon lights reflected off wet streets as she stood on a landing platform, staring into the night. The city of Eris Prime stretched endlessly below, its towers piercing the storm clouds like metal fangs. You did more than anyone else would have, came a deep, rumbling voice from the shadows. Riya turned to see massive wings unfurl from the darkness. Drinker stepped into the light, his golden eyes burning with ancient wisdom and quiet rage. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. Neither should you, he replied, studying her with those knowing eyes. Where will you go now? I don't know. The admission felt like defeat. The dragon's massive head tilted thoughtfully. Perhaps it's time to stop following their rules. Before Riya could respond, her wrist communicator chimed with a priority alert. Her blood froze as she read the message, Commander Khan Cross en route to your location. Stand by. She looked up at Drinker, confusion mixing with adrenaline. This just got interesting. For the first time that night, the dragon bared his teeth in something resembling a smile. The commander's arrival. The storm intensified as lightning split the sky above Eris Prime. Riya watched a sleek black shuttle descend through the chaos, its military plating gleaming under the city's neon glow. No fleet markings adorned its hull, this was a ship built for shadows and secrets. Commander Khan Cross emerged from the shuttle like a force of nature. Tall and sharp-featured, his platinum-trimmed uniform spoke of absolute authority. Rain soaked his shoulders, but he moved as if the storm itself bent to his will. Two armored guards flanked him, their weapons holstered but ready. Voss, his voice cut through the howling wind. You've caused quite a disturbance. Riya straightened her spine. She wouldn't cower before anyone, not even the fleet's most feared commander. I did my job. Your job was to uphold the law. Cross's gaze flicked to Drinker. Instead, you interfered with a classified asset transfer. There's that word again, Riya snarled. Asset. Is that what we call war veterans now? Cross studied her for a long moment, rain streaming down his face. Finally, he gestured to his guards. Leave us. The soldiers retreated to the shuttle. Only then did Cross step closer, lowering his voice against the storm. Imperial Salvage wasn't just buying an old war dragon, he said. They were buying something much more dangerous. Dringer's eyes narrowed, ancient intelligence gleaming in their depths. You speak as if I'm still a weapon. Aren't you? Cross's question hung in the air like a blade. Riya felt anger pulse through her veins. Drinker earned the right to live freely. The world doesn't work that way, Voss. Cross reached into his coat and produced a small black data drive. The things he knows, secrets locked away after the War of Broken Suns, don't just disappear because we want them to. The implication sent ice through Riya's spine. She had assumed Imperial Salvage wanted Drinker for experimentation, but this sounded far worse. Explain, she demanded. Cross weighed the data drive in his palm. He wasn't just any war dragon. He was part of the Drinker Initiative, the last protocol. Drinker's massive body tensed, wings shifting like storm clouds. The name clearly meant something to him, something terrible. I've heard whispers, Riya said carefully. The last protocol was supposed to be a rumor. It was very real, Cross replied grimly. And if Imperial Salvage had succeeded in acquiring him, they would have unlocked something that could destroy everything we've fought to build. Thunder crashed overhead as the three figures stood in the rain, each carrying pieces of a puzzle that could reshape the galaxy. What do you want from us? Riya asked. Cross's smile was cold as space itself. I want you to help me steal something. Secrets of the last protocol. Inside Cross's shuttle, the storm became a distant rumble. The interior was Spartanly military, reinforced walls, tactical displays, and an air of controlled tension. Riya sat across from the commander while Dringer's massive form filled the cargo bay, his golden eyes reflecting the soft glow of instrument panels. Cross activated a holographic projector, and the data drive's contents materialized in shimmering blue light. Star charts, genetic sequences, and classified documents floated in the air between them. The last protocol, Cross began, was the galaxy's most desperate contingency plan during the War of Broken Suns. When it looked like we might lose everything, the military created something unprecedented. The hologram shifted to show DNA helixes intertwined with mechanical schematics. Riya leaned forward, trying to comprehend what she was seeing. They didn't just breed war dragons, Cross continued. They created living weapons capable of interfacing directly with our most advanced technology. Each dragon in the program carried genetic locks, biological keys to weapon systems that could crack planets. Dringer's voice rumbled from the cargo bay. We were children when they changed us. They told us we were special, that we would save everyone. And you did, Cross said quietly. The war ended, and the protocol was sealed away. Every dragon in the program was supposed to have their enhancements neutralized. Supposed to, Riya repeated, understanding dawning. The neutralization process was incomplete for some subjects. 3 dragons retained their capabilities, their biological keys intact. Imperial Salvage discovered this and began acquiring them one by one. The hologram showed surveillance footage of corporate facilities, dragons in containment cells, scientists in sterile suits conducting experiments. They already have 2, Cross revealed. If they get the 3rd, they could access the Omega Arsenal, Drinker finished, his voice heavy with old grief. Riya's blood chilled. The Omega Arsenal was legend, weapons so powerful they had been buried in the deepest vaults of military space, their locations lost to protect the galaxy from their terrible potential. But you're not just any dragon, she said, pieces clicking together. You're the 3rd. Dringer's massive head bowed. I am the primary key. Without me, the arsenal remains locked forever. Cross stood, pacing the narrow cabin. Imperial Salvage has a facility on Kepler Station. Tomorrow, they're transferring the 2 dragons they have to a research vessel bound for the Omega Vault coordinates. You want us to stop them, Riya said. I want you to do what you do best, fight for justice. But this time, you'll have official backing. Cross held out a new badge, different from her old judicial emblem. This one bore the seal of Fleet Intelligence. Riya stared at the badge, then at Dringer's ancient, weary eyes. What happens to him after? To all of them? That depends, Cross said, on whether we can break the genetic locks permanently. There's a scientist on Kepler Station, Dr. Elena Vera. She developed the original neutralization process. If anyone can free them from this burden, it's her. Drinker lifted his great head. And if she cannot? Cross met the dragon's gaze unflinchingly. Then you'll remain the most dangerous being in the galaxy. But at least you'll be free to choose what to do with that power. Riya took the badge, feeling its weight, not just the metal, but the responsibility it represented. When do we leave? The Kepler Station Gambit. Kepler Station hung in the void like a mechanical spider, its arms reaching out to dock a dozen different vessels. The research facility processed salvaged assets from across the galaxy, its sterile laboratories hidden behind corporate facades. Riya adjusted her new fleet intelligence uniform as their shuttle approached the docking bay. The plan was ambitious: infiltrate the station, locate Dr. Vera and the captured dragons, and extract them before Imperial Salvage could complete the transfer. Remember, Cross's voice crackled through her earpiece, "You're Inspector Voss, conducting a routine compliance check. I'll create a distraction in the main hub while you reach the research levels." Drinker remained hidden in the shuttle's cargo hold, his massive form concealed by sensor dampeners. He would be their ace in the hole, if everything went wrong. The station's corridors were pristine white, filled with the hum of recycled air and the soft footsteps of corporate security. Riya's forged credentials got her past the first checkpoint, but she could feel suspicious eyes tracking her movement. She found Dr. Elena Vera in Lab Complex C, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and haunted eyes. The scientist looked up from her workstation as Riya entered. "Inspector Voss, Fleet Intelligence," Riya said, showing her badge. "I need to speak with you about the Dragon Initiative." Vera's face went pale. That program was classified. And being reactivated by people who don't understand what they're playing with. Riya stepped closer. "I know you developed the neutralization process. I know 2 dragons are being held here against their will." "You don't understand," Vera whispered, glancing at the laboratory's sealed doors. "The genetic locks aren't just biological, they're quantum entangled with the dragon's consciousness. Removing them incorrectly could kill them, or worse, drive them insane." An alarm began wailing throughout the station. Red lights flashed as an automated voice announced, "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel to emergency stations." Cross's distraction had begun. "Doctor, I need you to come with me," Riya said urgently. "We're getting you and the dragons out of here." "The dragons are in the biocontainment level," Vera said, grabbing her research files. "But the security there is." The laboratory door exploded inward as armored corporate soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. "Stand down," their leader barked. "You're under arrest for industrial espionage." Riya's hand moved to her sidearm, but she was outnumbered 5 to 1. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, a sound like thunder filled the station's corridors. The walls shook as something massive moved through the ventilation systems. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting eerie shadows as Dringer's roar echoed through the facility. "Impossible," one soldier whispered. "The sensors showed no dragon signatures." "Your sensors," Dringer's voice rumbled from the shadows above, "were not designed to detect legends." The dragon dropped through the ceiling like a living avalanche, his scales gleaming in the red emergency lights. The soldiers scattered, their weapons useless against his armored hide. "This way!" Vera shouted, leading them through a maintenance tunnel. They raced through the station's bowels as chaos erupted around them. Cross's voice crackled over the comm, "Transport bay is compromised. Need alternate extraction." "The biocontainment level has its own shuttle bay," Vera said. "If we can reach the other dragons." They burst into the containment facility to find 2 massive forms held in energy cages. The captured dragons, one with scales like polished bronze, the other midnight black, raised their heads as Drinker approached. "Brothers," Drinker said softly. "It's time to leave this place." "The genetic locks," Vera warned. "If they're activated now, then we'll face that challenge as free beings," the bronze dragon replied, his voice carrying centuries of pain. Riya began working on the cage controls as more security forces converged on their position. The battle for the galaxy's future had begun, and everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes. Freedom's price. The energy cages dissolved as Riya's override codes took effect. The three dragons stood together for the first time in decades, Drinker with his scarred golden hide, Thane with scales like polished bronze, and Nyx whose midnight black form seemed to absorb the emergency lighting. The shuttle bay is through there, Dr. Vera pointed to a sealed blast door. But the station's lockdown protocols are no match for 3 war dragons, Nyx rumbled, her voice like distant thunder. The corporate soldiers had regrouped, their leader speaking urgently into his communicator. Code Black. Repeat, Code Black. All assets are loose. They're calling in the fleet, Thane observed, his bronze eyes gleaming. Imperial salvage won't let us escape. Through the station's viewports, Riya could see sleek corporate warships moving to intercept positions. They had minutes before the facility would be completely surrounded. Cross's voice crackled through the comm, extraction impossible. Station is locked down tight. You'll have to fight your way out. Dringer's massive head turned to his fellow dragons. Brothers, the time has come to choose. We can surrender and remain weapons in their hands, or we can take the risk of freedom. The genetic locks, Vera warned desperately. If you access the Omega Arsenal systems, the quantum entanglement could kill us, Nyx finished. Or could free us forever. I've spent 30 years in cages, Doctor. I'll take the risk. The 3 dragons looked at each other, a silent communication passing between them. Then, as one, they began to change. The air around them shimmered with energy as dormant genetic sequences activated. Their scales began to glow with inner fire, and their eyes blazed with power that had slept for decades. The station's metal walls groaned as quantum forces warped space around them. What are they doing? Riya whispered. Something that was never supposed to happen, Vera breathed. They're synchronizing their genetic locks, combining their access codes. The blast door to the shuttle bay didn't just open, it dissolved. The 3 dragons moved as one, their combined power creating a bubble of twisted spacetime around their small group. Corporate weapons fired harmlessly past them, the energy beams bending around the quantum distortion. In the shuttle bay, they found Cross waiting with a fleet transport, its engines already hot. Thought you might need a ride, he called over the chaos. As they lifted off from the station, the dragons maintained their synchronization, their power protecting the ship from the corporate fleet's weapons. But Riya could see the strain it was putting on them, their breathing was labored, their scales flickering between normal and incandescent. The quantum entanglement is breaking down, Vera said, monitoring her instruments. The process is destroying the genetic locks, but it's taking enormous effort. Space around them began to warp and twist as the dragons poured more power into their shield. Stars stretched into lines of light, and the corporate ships fell away as if sliding down an invisible slope. Then, suddenly, it was over. The 3 dragons collapsed to the deck, their scales returning to normal, but something fundamental had changed. The aura of terrible power that had surrounded them for so long was gone. The locks, Thane whispered. They're broken. We're free. Dr. Vera ran her scanners over them, tears streaming down her face. The quantum entanglement is severed. The genetic modifications are inert. You're no longer weapons, you're just yourselves. 6 months later, Riya stood on the observation deck of Fleet Command, watching 3 dragons soar through the clouds of New Haven, a world designated as the first free dragon sanctuary. They had chosen to stay together, building a new life far from the shadows of war. Commander Cross joined her at the viewport. Any regrets about leaving the judiciary? Riya touched her fleet intelligence badge. Ask me again in a few years. But right now? I can't imagine doing anything else. Below them, Drinker executed a perfect barrel roll through a cloud formation, his joy evident in every movement. For the first time in his long life, he was truly free. What about the Omega Arsenal? Riya asked. Cross smiled grimly. Still sealed away, and now it will remain that way forever. Some weapons are too dangerous to exist, even for the right reasons. As the sun set over New Haven, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, the three dragons landed on a cliff-top overlooking the sea. They had earned their peace, their freedom, and their right to choose their own destiny. Justice, Riya reflected, sometimes came at a high price. But it was worth paying when it meant beings could live as themselves rather than as tools of others' making. The end.